Welcome to the Rick Dollar Show podcast. Here's a guy who thought those voices in his head sounded familiar. Your host, Rick Dollar.
Hey, a few days ago, I got to sit down with my old friend, Josh Williams. Now, Josh is, of course, the lead singer of Southern Legacy. And this is how that went. Rick Dollar here for the Rick Dollar Show. And thanks for joining us tonight, folks. My guest this evening is Mr. Josh Williams.
Yeah.
It says Joshua right here on the little thing, but I'm not gonna do that to you. So.
Yeah, well, I answer that. I go by both. So usually if I hear the full name, I know I'm in trouble. So.
Yeah, really, no doubt about that. Richard Eugene Dollar.
There you go.
You know, and then you're like in trouble.
Oh yeah, I know.
Then you act like you don't hear.
Yep.
What'd she say?
I always heard the Joshua Seth, and I knew I was in trouble then.
Let me tell you, my mom was the worst at that.
Oh yeah, my mom still does it.
Yeah, go get your own switch. That was the bad one.
So, yeah, yep, done that.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what we want to talk to you about this evening, sir, is this other bunch of fellas you running around with here. Ron Block, Don Rigsby, Steve Thomas, and Mike Anglin, collectively known as Southern Legacy.
That's right.
Gosh.
Bunch of hoodlums we are.
A bunch of crazy people, man. Hey, it's all right to run around with those guys, though, because, Ron Block's been around for a way long time, and so's Don Rigsby. But, I met Steve Thomas, I think, one time when I was doing interviews for Tim White at Song of the Mountains in Marion, Virginia. And I remember seeing him, and I was like, man, that dude is tall. He's a big fella. And so anyway,
he plays like he's 10 feet tall.
I'm telling you, he is, he's something else. I mean, you got a really great bunch of guys here. And there's not a stinker in the bunch, as I used to say. You got some good guys to back you up.
Yeah.
Hills of Carter County is I think one of the best songs of the year.
Well, thank you. For
2 straight weeks on our radio show, you guys are number 1.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and I mean we're getting text messages and emails and people are saying, we've got affiliates all over the country, and they're all saying, man, this is a great song. I mean, it just makes you feel like that you are there in Carter County, and I know exactly where Carter County is.
Yeah. The guys that wrote that song, Jeff Walter and Mark Rossi, those guys, I got to meet. I don't know if I've met Mark or not. I've met so many people throughout the years. It's very well could be that I've met him in passing or whatever. But I do know Jeff Walter, and he's a great guy. And he actually grew up in Carter County, and
really?
yeah, so that's where the song comes from. It's actually a fairly older song that just never got cut. But we when he sent that to Don and brought it to us, I mean, it was just an immediate, we got to do this, And Steve actually was the one that said it right one time. He was on stage when he said it, so it was it kind of was accidental, but it was so true. It's like he always when he would talk about the song, he would say it's we've all been there, but it's like you can always go home, but you can't go back. You know what I mean? There's so many things that we do in our lives that we'd give anything to be able to go back and be able to do again, and maybe do things different. And, that's really what the song kind of touches on is that whole thing, of, I remember that time in my life, and I still think about that. It's a huge memory in my mind, and I wish I could go back to that time,
Yeah. Don't we all? I remember the first time I remember being around in that general area, growing up in Bristol. I was always exposed to country music and bluegrass music. That's just where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
And, around that area, around in the Blunt City area there, right outside of Bristol, is where they used to do Slagle's Pasture.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that was the first time I was ever exposed to anything that just moved me. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
my grandfather put, now this is going to sound weird, but I mean, I hope people know what I'm talking about. He had an 8-track player in his truck, and it was my pawpaw. It was my mom's father.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first time I ever heard Doyle Lawson and Quicksilver. But I was about 10 years old. And we
Yeah.
were driving by the big sign in Bluff City that said Slagle's Pasture next week. Now, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you're talking about the creme de la creme of bluegrass artists at that time. You're talking about, Dr. Ralph and a lot of these guys that made a huge mark on the industry. And I'm sure guys like you that are out doing this stuff for a living.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Those guys, they paved the way, I mean, the first and even the second generation guys like Doyle and them, I mean, of course you got, the Bluegrass Album Band that I see pictured behind you there,
Snuck
a
that in
bunch
there and see if you know
of,
what that was.
oh, shoot. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
That was, those second generation guys, that was just them paying homage to the first generation guys, I know that when it started out, Tony was just trying to complete a contract essentially, was saying, hey, I got to do a bluegrass record for Rounder. I'm going to put these guys together and we're just going to cut it in a day and do some jam session songs, just some old traditional stuff. And then it just blew up huge, and following that first record came 5 more volumes, so, it just was huge. But it also shows you that even in that time, that first generation of bluegrass, that those songs
Mm-hmm.
were still that big. They were still that good. People still wanted to hear them.
Sure.
So it's all those same songs, just with a second generation twist on it, and that's all really what we're trying to do is just kind of, I guess you'd call it maybe a third generation type of thing,
Sure.
uh, I mean, those guys that I'm playing with are, you know, like what you mentioned, just the top of the game, and they've all played with a whole bunch of folks, and we're wanting to do our thing, as a band and get our own name out there and our own sound. But at the
Yeah.
same time, the whole reason we started doing this was because, Don and I for years, uh, have known each other. And I've known Don more of my life than I haven't known Don, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
understand.
yeah. So I met him. I was very young because he was still playing with Crowe back then. So that would have been around 1990, 90, between 90 and 92, somewhere around there. And we've been talking about wanting to do that for years, but and even the name, that's where our name comes from, is from all of that stuff. The southern part is mostly, I mean, we all do live in the South,
Right.
and but it's also a huge tip of the cap to the New South, because JD was just such a profound part of all of our lives and what we liked musically.
Oh yeah.
So that's where that part of the name comes from. And then the legacy is just we're wanting to leave our own, but also carry on what these other guys started.
I almost feel like we need to take a moment of quiet when you say when you say that man's name, because you have no doubt about it, man. Because if it wasn't for that guy, I would have never been touched the way I was about music and things like that. But it was almost a have to thing. I mean, even when I wanted to start, reporting and sort of just going around and understanding about how music got where it is right now. My friend Tony called me up one day, and I'd been in radio for a while and had a little health issue. Tony calls me up one day and he says, "Hey man, let's go interview bluegrass guys." I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, don't you remember?" And the more I thought, the more I was like, that's my past. That's the history of me. So
Yeah.
why not? And the second or third interview I did was with Doyle Lawson.
Yeah.
And it's 45 minutes of gold of
Absolutely.
Doyle saying, "This is how I grew up. This is where I grew up. This is the first time I played a mandolin or any kind of instrument." So that being said, it's when you say JD Crowe, okay, that's enough. But we gotta pay homage to these guys because
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, when Tim White said, "Hey, you want to come up and do some interviews?" I was like, sure. I had no idea, the third or fourth interview that I did was going to be with Dr. Ralph Stanley.
Yeah.
And those are the times you never forget.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And what other genre of music can you go watch, the biggest stars of that genre play and then sit down with them afterwards, or maybe go to dinner with them, or whatever? Like, you can't do that at a Taylor Swift concert, or you can't do that
nor
with,
would I want to. Okay.
well, yeah, I don't, not hard to look at. I'll give her that. She these people are tangible. You can reach them. And
Right.
the craziest part about Crowe is when I grew up, I started playing banjo around 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I quickly became a huge fan of JD Crowe's, and I got to meet him. I cut an album when I was around 12, and the engineer that we used at that time, who's you know basically immediately at that time became a family friend, with Steve Chandler,
Oh,
and he had done every single Crow record since "You Can Share My Blanket," which was the second New South album.
jeez.
And so he's like, "Well, I'm going to tell Crow about you next time I talk to him and stuff." So anyway, like 6 months later, I get to meet Crow,
Oh,
and the first thing out of his mouth to me was, "I've heard of you," and I said, "Whoa, really?"
whoa.
And
Oh,
the craziest part about it, man, was like he never once talked like to me like I was a kid. He talked to me like I was his buddy, his peer. Like, he never once talked down to me ever. The first 4 years of my oldest son, Weldon, the first 4 years of his life, he thought that Crow was his grandpa, man. And didn't tell him no different, because we
no,
were
man, let it go.
point, and I was working on a record that Crow produced, and Steve Chandler was, doing the engineering for it, and it was called Modern Day Man, and it had that very Crowish feeling. It was all bluegrass stuff, but it had the drums and the steel and the really cool quintessential Crow sound of the 80s.
Yeah.
And anyway, Weldon would come into the studio. His mom would bring him by, and he'd walk right by me so he could, you know, go up to Crow, and Crow pick him up and set him in the lap, and the two of them start producing the record together. I
Oh
mean,
my
it's just
gosh.
so many cool things like that.
So how old is he now?
My son now he's about to turn 15.
So does he have any idea who he was talking to back
Oh, yeah.
then? I'm sure
Oh,
you've schooled him by now.
absolutely. Even when he was little, at that age, when he was getting to where he was really talking good and stuff, I'd be playing something in the truck. We'd be driving somewhere, and I'd have something on, and he'd say, "Dad, play Crow," and
Wow.
I'd put the New South on or whatever, and or I'd be playing something, and just randomly I could turn around to him and be like, "Who's playing banjo?" He said, "Crow," you know, or
Jeez,
I could
man.
turn to a different song, completely different band, and ask him, "Who's that singing?" He'd be like, "That's Doyle Lawson." Like, he knew that stuff, man. So I knew I did good at that point.
Man, dude, there's something in that kid's DNA.
I know it.
There's got to be.
Well, he wasn't even 6 months old yet, and he was held, which held him as a little infant, but the two people that I'll never forget holding him was he got held by Emmylou Harris.
Yeah.
I played in Nashville with the Tony Rice unit when I was still playing with Tony.
I'd pay for that to happen.
Oh man, it was the coolest thing, and that's first thing out of her mouth was not hello, not nice to see you again. It was bring me that baby.
Oh my
That's
God.
what she said, and then the second one, and probably my most memorable. I was we were in Nashville at SPBGMA one year, and I was backstage. Me and my wife at the time, his mom, were holding, welding and stuff, and I actually had him, and Tom T. Hall came walking, and I said, "Hey, Tom T, I want you to meet my boy," and he just reached out and took him from me, and he started just holding him and just looking down at him and talking to him, and Weldon kind of started getting, a little bit fussy because I'm sure he didn't know who this guy was.
Who is this gold guy, right?
Who is this gray one? And so when he started getting fussy, Tom T just immediately started singing, "I love little baby ducks." And of course, I looked over at his mom and she just,
I can imagine.
Eyes out, but Weldon stopped crying and just looked at him while he was singing it. It was just the coolest thing.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
My brother was driving around out near Carterfold. And, back when I guess it's cool to say this now, but back when Tom T was living out there, my brother called me up and he's like, "I think I found where Tom T. Hall lives." I said, "Are you sure?" Because, that's out in the back country over there. You walk up on somebody's porch, you just don't want to knock on their door. So he said he knocked on the door and he came to the front door and he had a little chat with him. And he said, "Come on in. Let's have a cup of coffee." And he sat there for 2 hours.
That's great, man.
And he called my dad up and he's like, "Dad, I'm at Tom T. Hall's house." And Dad was like, "Yeah, sure you are." And they talked on the phone, and that just like freaked my dad out, because that was one of his heroes. We'll be right back, folks, with more from Josh Williams of Southern Legacy. Hey, folks, if you're looking for a place that's got that perfect mix of mountain charm, music, and outdoor adventure, let me tell you about Marion, Virginia. It's this beautiful little town tucked right in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and when you walk through their historic downtown, you'll feel like you've stepped into a storybook. Boutique shops, local dining, and that small-town hospitality that makes you want to stay a while. If you're a music lover, Marion is home to the legendary Lincoln Theater, where Song of the Mountains is filmed. That's a nationally televised concert series showcasing some of the best in bluegrass and Americana music, and you'll be right in the heart of it. And for outdoor fans, you're just a minute from Hungry Mother State Park. We're talking hiking, biking, fishing, and even a sandy beach where you can just relax. Plus, the Appalachian Trail and Mount Rogers National Recreation Area are right there too. So whether it's live music, mountain air, or just slowing down a bit, Marion, Virginia's got it all. Check it out at visitmarionva.com and start planning your getaway.
Want to make your advertising dollar go farther? Just go to therickdollarshow.com and fill out the contact information. Someone from our advertising department will contact you as soon as they finish their lunch. The Rick Dollar Show, helping your business be more successful.
When it comes to music, there's nothing like playing an instrument that has soul in it. And that's exactly what you'll find at Randy Wood Guitars. For decades, Randy Wood has been building and restoring some of the finest guitars, mandolins, and banjos that you'll ever put your hands on. His instruments have been played by legends and trusted by pickers who know the difference. When you walk into Randy Wood Guitars down in Bloomingdale, Georgia, you're not just stepping into a shop. You're stepping into a tradition. You'll see handcrafted instruments, hear incredible stories from Randy himself, and maybe even catch some live music in their intimate pickin' parlor. It's a place where music is alive, where history and craftsmanship meet. So whether you're a collector, a performer, or just someone who loves the sound of wood and strings coming together, check out Randy Wood Guitars. Visit them in person or online at randywoodguitars.com, where great music begins.
The Rick Dollar Show.
Hey folks, let me tell you about one of my favorite spots in Pigeon Forge, the Local Goat. This place is a true scratch-made kitchen where every single dish is crafted fresh daily. We're talking hand-patted gourmet burgers, perfectly cut steaks, fall-off-the-bone ribs, and even made-from-scratch desserts that'll have you coming back for more. But it's not just the food, it's the vibe. The Local Goat is filled with artwork from local artists, so when you walk in, you're not only getting a great meal, you're getting a taste of the community. It's family-friendly, it's fun, it's the perfect place whether you're grabbing a casual bite, celebrating with friends, or just looking for a cold craft beer to go with that burger. So next time you're in Pigeon Forge, make sure you stop by the Local Goat, the place where locals eat and visitors love. Hey, let's get back to the conversation with Josh Williams from Southern Legacy.
What other genre of music can this stuff happen in, you know?
And not many, let me tell you. I mean, most of these guys are not, they're just not spun that way, you know?
You know, there's a handful of people in other genres that I could maybe consider that I might want to do that type of thing with. Like, you know, I mean, I grew up, mom is a humongous Beatle fan. She was a Beatlette. So that's a huge part of my growing up too, you know. And I got to get her tickets for her birthday. No, it was for Christmas one year. I got her tickets to go see Paul McCartney, Sir Paul.
Holy crap.
Yeah, which she always loved Paul. He was always her favorite. And so for Christmas one year, I got to get her tickets to go see him at Rupp Arena in Lexington. Of course, I couldn't go because had a gig and stuff, but my brother took her to it, and even
that's cool.
He was a huge fan, you know, and both of them just fangirled out, you know, and it was awesome, you know. I would love to sit down with him. I think I got to play the Opry back. It's been several months ago now, but it was Ringo Starr had never played at the Grand Ole Opry before.
Yeah.
So basically his people contacted the Opry and said, Ringo wants to play the Opry. Can y'all make that happen? They're like, you just have to come on anytime he wants. So when he came down, I happened to be filling in with Rhonda Vincent that evening there at the Opry. And she was like, okay, so you know, we're going to be doing this. So we, you know, dressed all in black suits, and, you know, we had the kind of Beatles-ish look going on and stuff. And anyway, I got to take mom to that too. So she's got to see Ringo and Paul, you know, in person.
You are a good son. Let me tell you.
I mean, and I got to do stuff for my dad too, you know. A cool thing, which this has nothing to do with anyone else other than just my dad. When I was a kid, I would play contests and stuff. So I would enter banjo and guitar and mandolin and all this stuff, even when I was like super tiny. So like all the other guys, you know, would be like playing guitar, you know, like this, you know, and stuff. Well, my dad had a 1939 017.
Whoa.
And it was a cool little guitar, but it was always like silk and steel strings and stuff. So anyway, he decided that it was more important to him that I had a guitar that I could play comfortably.
Yeah.
So he drilled out the headstock, put better tuners on it, basically ruined the value of the guitar just so I could have something to comfortably play.
Yeah, but still.
So, yeah, so in my 20s, I'd been with Rhonda for a couple of years, I think, the first time. And anyway, I'd made enough money that I had found a all original 1931 017. And I was able to give that to my dad for Christmas.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was a really cool thing I got to do for him and stuff, which I lost my dad in 2017, but
Oh, man.
yeah, I mean, I miss him every day. Bluegrass was our thing. He would carry me the contest to different bluegrass festivals, and it was just that's how I got into it.
Yeah.
That
My
was our
brother and
thing.
I were talking the other day, man. Our mom's going to be dead 30 years this year. And
Oh wow.
I was like, are you sure that the math is right? I mean,
Yeah.
you just don't think about those things every day, or you try not to.
Oh, of course.
Dad passed last year, and so it's just like told him the other day, I said, we're kind of by ourselves now, pal. So we're gonna have to stay in good graces with each other.
That's right, man.
Yeah, that's exactly right, man. It was, but you're right. There's not many musicians that you can do this with. But if you're talking about Paul McCartney, I interviewed the guys from Mountain Grass Unit. I don't know, a few months ago, and they were telling me how they were at the Renewal Festival that Billy Strings had put on in Colorado, and that his wife had went into labor. He
Yeah.
had no time to book a flight and it was like under the gun. He had to get back. And Ringo Starr overheard the conversation, put him in his private jet, and he said, I'll take you home to see your child being born.
Wow.
And he put him in, and everybody that I knew they're like, oh, that's not a real picture. Yeah, it was. He's just that kind of guy. And those guys are older in their years now, but they're kind of just kicking back. I mean, Jonathan Yudkin, I spoke with him the other day too. He's Nashville producer, and he was talking about being at Abbey Road doing a record for somebody.
Wow.
And Paul McCartney stuck his head in the door.
What?
Did you know you're in my house? This is my house.
That's awesome.
And he said he looked at him and he was like, well, I can die now.
Yeah,
Paul McCartney knows who I am. So,
Yeah.
But, it's amazing, though, with a lot of musicians these days. I think a lot of these guys are learning that, hey, we're all human beings. So let's just try to get along on this planet,
Well, and I'll tell you something that I've learned. Somebody did it for me when I was younger. When I was, Crowe took that time to get to know me, not just say hi and sign something.
Yeah, exactly.
But he got to know me, like he was family.
Yeah.
And there's so many different musicians. Don was the same way. Like I say, I've known Don longer than I haven't known Don.
Yeah, me too.
Oh,
I interviewed him one time, and I was like, I didn't know who. I had never met him,
yeah,
in the same room with him. But Don was like, "Hey, Rick, it's great to sit down with you finally, man. I mean, I've always wanted to do this," and I'm thinking, what?
Yeah,
it's me. It's not. I'm not anybody special, but Don Rigsby wanted to sit down and talk to me, and it kind of gave me the big head for about 30 minutes.
Well, he actually told us all. He was the reason I wanted to talk to you too.
Really?
Yeah, he had nothing but great things to say about you.
Don's a great guy, man. I love that guy. You can tell there's things going on in that man's head that are way above me and you. But I'm telling you, I love him to death. He's just a great guy. But you got a great lineup here.
We do.
What's going to be your next single you're going to drop, or can you throw me that information?
Nobody's told me I can't. It is this one's
Okay, so
going
we're
to
both off the hook now.
yeah, I think. I don't want to give away too much, I think maybe, but I mean, I don't think it's going to be that big a deal because nobody's ever heard the song before, So,
Okay.
but it's a song that Don wrote, and it's actually one he wrote about his dad.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and the crazy thing is, like, if I wrote one about my dad, I feel like it would be slow and it would be sad and all this, and Don wrote this happy, up tempo, really cool song about his dad. And, it's the coolest thing. And I can't wait for everybody to hear it. The only thing about it is obviously it's his song, so he has to sing it, and it's, Don's voice and my voice are night and day,
I understand.
so I get to sing tenor with two
Exactly.
so that's way up there. But it's the coolest song, man, and I can't wait for everybody to hear it. But
What's it called?
it's called Bill from Isonville.
Bill from Isonville.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I think no, I haven't heard that.
No, you haven't.
I thought maybe I had talked to him and maybe he had mentioned that or something.
He may have in passing, perhaps,
Forever ago.
but the way that I understand it is when we started recording the album, it didn't exist. And then one day when we came to the studio, he was like, guys, I've been thinking about this and I've written a song about my dad that I'd kind of like to play for y'all and see what you think.
Mm-hmm.
And when he played it, I mean, the first time through, we were all like, let's cut it. Let's go cut it right now. Let's go cut it.
Now, this very second.
Yeah.
Everybody go to the bathroom and get you something to drink. Come on back. This has got to get done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
It's just so cool. There's a line in the end of it. He says, with pride each day, I'll always say Bill Rigsby was my dad. And that's the coolest thing, man. So I can't wait for people to hear it. And I hope I'm not giving away too much here, but I know that nobody's ever heard it before, so nobody's going to go steal it or anything.
I have trouble with that one, man. I might have to. I don't know. If I can't even talk about stuff like that right now because of Dad. But good Lord,
it took me a while to be able to do that too. But Don's dad's been gone quite a few years.
Yeah,
But there was one time during the time when he was like singing the scratch vocal when we were put it down that he had to stop and he was like, I'm sorry guys, no dude, like totally get that.
Really.
Don's a extremely soft-hearted man, to be just such a big guy, he's just the nicest dude, and he's got such a soft heart and loves the Lord. And that's one thing that I feel so fortunate to have this group of guys together is because of that. I mean, I've been in a lot of bands that I truly love the people that I work with, but there's something different about this.
Yeah.
I mean, I know for a fact that if I was out there in a gutter somewhere, I know for a fact that they would be the guys that came and got me, and obviously I'm thankful I'm not there today, but those guys are just, they love the Lord so much and it just radiates from them. And we all love each other. And the coolest part about it was when we put this together, the whole thing before we ever went into the studio the first time was the egos stay outside the door.
Exactly.
We all leave them there.
That's right.
Because we all love each other and we want to be able to put together the best possible collection of music that we can make together.
But I think that's what your key to what your success is with you guys. You've just got this synergy. You can tell, and I mean, and it's you got some heavy hitters here, but I mean, you're no slouch yourself, so don't be selling yourself short.
Well, thank you.
I mean, you look at Ron Block.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could do about 2 hours on him, and Don too. Steve Thomas. I mean, let's just put it this way: you're sort of a super group of guys that are going to make a mark in this industry in a lot of different ways. I mean, when you get cranked up and you guys, hit the road hard and you start being seen more and more and more and more and more together, it's not just going to be, hey, there's Ron Block or there's Josh Williams. No, wait a minute. That's Southern Legacy.
Yeah.
When that happens, then you're all going to look at each other and say, how'd we do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
You just did it.
Yeah.
You did it years ago. I'll put it that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You guys have done this a long time ago. And that's something to be proud of. And I love the record. It's a great piece of work. But just like you guys, I mean, you each have a part to play in all this. And, I'm jacked about it, man. I think it's a good thing. And so I'm just looking for the rest of it to come out. You know what I mean?
I'm excited for it to happen, man.
Hey, if I can get you anywhere near Savannah, Georgia, I'm going to do it.
We'll work on that, man, because we want to get down.
Yeah, we used, I kind of threw that name at you there a little while ago. So we'll work on that. Let's actually, I have to have a talk with those guys tomorrow. So we'll see what we can do. Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect, man. That's perfect.
Yeah. I'll get you the information that you need. Okay.
Yeah. Great.
All right. Mr. Josh, it was good to have you on the show tonight. And, man, I can't wait for the rest of this record to come out and get where it needs to get. And I can talk about all the songs and all that good stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, I'm excited for that too, man. I can't wait to be able to do that for everybody to be able to talk about it,
Well, I mean, 2 weeks in a row, dude, y'all are number one on our chart and everybody.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at Bluegrass Today's charts today. So the more we play it, the more my affiliates are going to report it and I'm going to report it. And you know how that exponentially works.
Oh, yeah.
Business. So
yeah,
looking forward to maybe having you back on the show here in the next little bit. Okay.
Rick, I'd love to do it, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Well, young man, I'll let you chew on that a little bit and we'll see how all this goes with Savannah, Georgia. Okay.
We'll work on it, man.
All right, brother. Thank you
Rick,
so much for sitting down with me. Okay.
Thank you, man. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, man. Rick Dollar here for the Rick Dollar Show and the Rick Dollar Show podcast. And I've been speaking with Mr. Josh Williams from Southern Legacy.
The Rick Dollar Show podcast is produced by Radio Dog Productions. Theme music is written and performed by Jeremy Garrett at garrettgrass.com. The Rick Dollar Show podcast cannot be reproduced or rebroadcast without express written consent from Radio Dog Productions. I'm Kent Jones, and this has been a Radio Dog production.